Welcome to Beyond the Quo, the podcast that challenges the status quo and helps leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers redefine success on their own terms. I'm your host, Stacey Luces, and today we've got an incredible guest joining us who I will introduce in just a second. And she is someone that is deeply embedded in the heart of Palm Beach County and their thriving communities, especially for small businesses. Jennifer Marquart, did I pronounce that correctly?
It's quart. That's
Quart.
okay. Mar like Mars, quart like
Yes.
milk. That's what I always say.
She is a powerhouse at the Greater Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce, an organization that has been a catalyst for business growth and leadership for decades. With her expertise in community engagement, networking, and fostering leadership, she's here to share insights on the power of business communities. She is a master at that, on the impact of leadership, and on how professionals can leverage the chamber to accelerate their growth. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Did my mom write that?
No, I did.
I'm like,
I'm an introvert. I say that a lot and people are like, no, not you. I am.
I get it.
And I think that you were one of the first people to welcome me. I don't know where the heck. I can't remember the meeting, but I remember you just walking up because I was wearing the new member's name badge. And you just totally took me under your wing about a year ago. You say that, but I've seen you in action. And I think that is something that stands out to a lot of us.
I can relate to what you're saying too, because I am a huge extrovert in my domain.
Correct.
But when I'm not in my domain, I am an introvert.
Wow. We'll dive into that.
So I can relate.
We need a lot of recharge time,
I can
right?
relate. I can relate.
So I was looking at statistics because when I wanted to scale my business and move a little bit more into the corporate side of things, the first thing that I did was called two of my good friends, Mike and Dan Nathanson, and I said, what are the groups or the communities that I should think about, right? I almost came out of this cocoon. And they were like, the first thing they said was the chamber. Long story short, that's when I started doing a little bit of research because I had been a member of the West Palm Beach Chamber before the pandemic. And things were great. And then the pandemic happened and everything was a little bit wonky, right? But I was like curious, do chambers really help people? And yeah, we've got statistics, right? So businesses that engage with their local chamber of commerce see a 49% increase in customer favorability. I love that.
That's true.
And small businesses with chamber membership are 44% more likely to thrive within their first 5 years. And as we know, the reverse of that statistic is, I think about 80% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Correct.
So I love that. Welcome to
Thank
Beyond the
you.
Quo. Thank you. The reason I call this Beyond the Quo is it's a little bit of a nod to outside of the status quo. And I think that for those of us that really toe the line and quite honestly jump over it, this is where we explore kind of ways and strategies and things to do that gets you outside of your comfort zone and into that area of growth and unpredictability. Tell me what drew you to the chamber and either a challenging thing about it or one thing that you really love.
Drew me to the chamber. They offered me a job. So that was very...
Thing one.
And I didn't know a lot. I didn't really know. I want to be completely transparent. I didn't really know anything about chambers.
Yeah.
I thought I knew something about chambers before I started working for the chamber, but I truly really knew nothing. What drew me to the job was I had a lot of background in nonprofit. So I thought calling people and asking them to do something that they didn't necessarily want to do was my specialty because I used to ask them for money. So everybody's has a philanthropic heart, but when I'm sitting across the table from them, asking them for a 4, 5, 6 figure donation, do they really want to do that? So I felt like I had a natural ability to do that. But in terms of the nuts and the bolts of the chamber, I would really say I had no experience with them whatsoever.
And now?
Drank the Kool-Aid.
But what's that kind of rewarding moment for you when folks like myself, this is my second business, but it's my first time being a full-time entrepreneur. My first business was part-time and I had a full corporate job. It's really done wonders for me. But what's a great moment for you when you see people like myself get it?
You really described the moment because the Nathansons, who Michael Nathanson was probably, I've been with the chamber for about 6 years, probably one of the first people I met within my first year of working at the chamber, and we met happenstance. And I think he had been a member years ago, didn't really know that and whatever. And we had talked and he thought, I'll give it a try. I don't know that he was fully bought into the process. So to see him now and to see the Nathanson brothers now and to see them, one, they're dear friends, but then to say, hey, Stacey, this is something you need to do is such a joy for me because I see how much they get out of it. I see the friendships that they've made, the circles that they've created, the spheres of influence. And it's just wonderful to see people thrive like that. I get that. Brings me nothing but joy.
Yeah. I went to an event, I think it was last week, Wednesday or Thursday morning. And I went to that same event a year ago. And I knew just one person last year. And then I walked in this year, almost to the day, a year later. And I knew so many people. And genuine like friendships had sprung up, doing partnerships with a few people. Somebody I had breakfast with. It was a good reflection moment for me. There's not only room for professional networking, which honestly, when I was in DC, that was mostly what it was.
Of course.
But
it's a different town.
Yes. But here there's, and I love that you brought up nonprofit work. That's also close to my heart. And now I went to an event, a ribbon cutting at the Hab Center, right? The YMCA had something the other day. And it's, you get to see people, yes, at the meetings in their great clothes and like we all put on the, hey, this is what I do. And you know, the pitch.
Right.
But then you go to see them in their like natural habitat with the thing they're most passionate about.
You definitely don't want to see me in my natural habitat, but that's a whole nother, that would be a whole nother podcast.
What would you say to someone that's on the fence about joining a community like this?
I would say to them, it's not what you think.
Yes.
Boca itself, Palm Beach. I work in, but we work in Boca and Boynton in very different, you know, we cover the whole gamut. But I think when people hear Boca Chamber or Boca Boynton Chamber or the Chamber, I think that there's a certain image in their mind of people being just not friendly, not welcoming.
Sure.
That is so the antithesis, right, of
Absolutely.
the chamber community, because people don't only want to do business with you. They want to refer you. They want to get to know you. And we are very into getting into the nitty gritty and that personal level. And so I would say it's not what you think. Don't be afraid. And you do have to put in the work. There's a reason why it's called networking. And I think I didn't come to understand that until I started working at the chamber. Again,
That's so powerful. I want to tell you a story because I want to, and I'll pull this back to what you were saying. So when I was very young, a teenager, I worked for Bank of America. And when I started there, they were Nations Bank. And within 6 months, there was a huge merger acquisition. I don't even know. But all of the Nations Bank became Bank of America. And our then new CEO went on this roadshow across he wanted to hit all of the banking centers.
oh my.
And it probably took this dude like a year or more. He came to our banking center, and I remember being so impressed that he sat us down and spoke to us like we were humans. He said, I'm the CEO of this multi-billion-dollar organization, but you are the face of Bank of America. Whether you are a teller that only works here 10 hours or you've been here for years, you have the power with the values and the attitude that you bring every day in front of the customer. And that is their impression of the entirety of Bank of America.
100%.
100%. And it struck me. One, you feel a sense of responsibility. But two, it reinforced his commitment to having that servant leadership perspective, but also how can I support you because you are the face of the bank, not me as the CEO, the chief executive officer. And it even stays with me now when I have employees, or even when I worked in federal government and we had teams and we were representing the department. And what I like and appreciate about you guys is, even though it's Boca or Boynton or wherever, or a fancier event or a more casual event, you guys have that same energy and that same commitment to being the face of the chamber, right?
absolutely what we were talking about is you are the face of your business, especially if you're a small business owner. You should be warm and welcoming to everybody, because you don't who is going to be your next client or who is going to be your next referral. I purposely live far away where I won't run into anybody on the weekends,
Right.
because I want to be in sweatpants and I want to be no makeup or whatever. But if you live in the town where you work, you should always be somewhat presentable, because if that's the first time you're meeting them, it's really the first impression of your business. So you need to always be on time, because if you're chronically late, people are not going to want to do all those little things. It all comes back to that at the package.
That is really powerful. And I talk a lot about branding, not in the sense of what's your logo or the name of your business, colors you have. But you're right. Inherently, you are your brand, especially in a small business, when you can't have the CEO and then thousands and thousands of customers like Bank of America. It is you and your capacity to, I don't know, show up in a way that encourages and inspires credibility, but also trust.
Perfect. You took exactly what I was saying and you distilled it to exactly what I meant. Thank you.
A Harvard Business Review study found that 85% of job success comes from well-developed soft skills like leadership, networking, and communication. Skills that you guys really foster. You guys have so many opportunities for whether you are a woman-owned business or a woman in business or you are a group or whatever. But what are two particular kind of flagship events or events that if somebody comes in and they're like flabbergasted by how many things are happening, what are two that you think, oh my gosh, this is for you? And I predominantly, my group is pretty much the 35 to 55 or 60-year-olds. They're in midlife with some kids. They've got one or two businesses. They're ready to scale in that midlife crunch, but also super professional.
It's hard. So it's really funny that you say that, because we have so many different entry points.
You really do.
And everyone is not. A lot of people say to us, I want to go to the breakfast. That's like our signature monthly event, 200, 250 people plus. But I discourage them from that, because if that's what they want, to be in a room with a lot of people, that might be a good entry point for them. But that's not necessarily a good entry point for everybody. So that's
more like a C and B scene kind of.
I ask them, what are you looking for? Are you looking to check us out to see or are you looking to see what kind of quality connections you want to make? That kind of thing. So before, it's hard to make a recommendation. We do really personalize that. I can't make a general, because do you want 1 hour in and out, meeting a lot of people, getting your name out there, calling them after? Do you want something where you're going to learn something about the community and really gain some value and have some good interaction? I always think of smart talk, where you're just going to get really know people at a deeper level. And sometimes people don't want to do that the first time off the bat. So I really have to, one of our best skills and one of the things that we talk about all the time in our membership process is really that active listening and asking those open-ended questions. Sure. So it's hard to say what would I recommend. If you want a big splash and you want to see how powerful we are and the numbers and the things that we bring to the table, the breakfast without question.
Sure.
But there's so many other things that can be just as powerful. Answer.
It does. I'm going to share what I did.
Please.
I made a commitment to myself last year that, and like I said, I'm an introvert, so this was hard, right? This was like, oh my God. I essentially tried to go to at least 2 or 3 events a week, if not more.
Wow. That's good.
So it was a lot of information, a lot of meeting people. I wouldn't say necessarily some connections became really strong and apparent because you have that vibe with someone, and some were just nice to know, file away. And I think it's important that we not think every connection is going to be for us.
100%.
Every connection is a connection, but it's not an accelerator to a goal that you have or a need that you have. And so I think thing one. Thing two, the fact that I went to as many as I could allowed me this year to be a lot more selective to meet the needs of me. And I will tell you what that means for me. One, there are some times I really want the pump. I really want to get dressed up and have a nice breakfast, and I want to be educated. and I want to have awareness of the leaders in my community, what they're doing, and a couple of things: how I can provide value, how I can support them, but also just for awareness, right? Because sometimes it's cool to share that information back in my networks.
1,000%. Something that other people don't know.
Yes.
And that's where you become of value.
The other, I want to get smarter, right? Because even though I'm a business owner and a mom and an executive coach and blah, 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 all the things, I want to learn something, because being an entrepreneur can be lonely and we don't know everything. So I like to go to the luncheon, Smart Talk, and I like to sit with other smart, powerful women, and I like to hear their perspectives. One that stands out for me is we did an intergenerational conversation. I think Sarah led that, but I could be wrong. But anyway, we did that, and we were talking about generationally how we show up in the workplace.
Oh, yeah.
Even little things like the common work-life balance. We all had listen, the vast array of perspectives, but we were able to listen.
Right.
And take it back. I found that the people I ended up being friends with and wanting to hang out with outside of like work and family all belonged to one leads group. And I wasn't in that leads group. So I was like, how do I get in that? So I think you find your people.
Exactly.
And then you go hang out with your people, and then you start developing the types of relationships that serve you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So you mentioned something that I want to touch on a little bit. You said the ones that you file away. And I find that really interesting. And I think that would be like your second tier group, though, because it's important that you create those relationships and those circles with the people that you feel most comfortable with. But never forget about them. But you should always have the coffee, maybe not the lunch.
Yes.
Think of it like dating a little bit, because you never know. I find something out about people every time I sit down with them and it blows me away. And so that interaction is so valuable. So if you're on one track, you want to complete that track. And it sounds like you've accomplished that within the first year, and you could teach how to become a first year. But then now you're at a point where you know a lot of people.
You need to amplify that.
Right. And so go back to the other tier or the second track or the whatever. It's so worth it.
Where you become a connector.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's one person, Sam Ganem, I think you know
her.
She's become like a person. I lost quite a bit of weight in the last 2 years. And now I want to get to the point after a back injury and so forth to build some muscle, right? I want to go into my golden years, like fit, spry grandma.
I don't want to think about golden years, but okay.
And I was like, who do I know that's super like in the gym and very active? And I called her and I said, hey, do you have a couple? I could go ask people, but I love the fact that you are in this lifestyle. And she was like, she did 5 steps further than I asked per Sam. She sent a voice note for both me and the person she was referring, and totally said why she loved me and why she loved this person and why she thought we'd be a good fit. And I can't wait to like do this podcast and go call the woman, because I'm like very eager to get started. And I have no desire to look for anybody else probably because of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I don't want to mention this name, but there's somebody that it's just her stuff. It's not my wheelhouse. And yet I thought of you. Yeah. We just had that moment, and I was going to call you, but the fact that you came into an event and she was at the event, it was perfect, because she has, it's not that I can't, it's so much. Like I can't tell someone how to scale their business.
Sure.
I could, but I don't have time essentially. And that's not really what the chamber does. I can't tell you how to scale your business, run your business, or
but you could connect them to people that do that every
thought bubble of scaling and moving and doing, and there's so much stuff. So again, when I think of the perfect person,
we connected on LinkedIn and we're gonna have a Zoom call.
So that's an idea of how the chamber works. And you probably, even if you hadn't met her in person, right? Yeah. If I would have called you and picked up the phone and said, oh my God, Stacey, you need to deal with this one. Yeah. This is the person who can help you scale your, because you've got too many things going on. Yeah. And you're not hearing.
And we talked for 2 minutes and I got what she needed like immediately.
You don't get it. So it's perfect. But that's okay.
Yes.
Because my role is not necessarily to get it. My role is to drive, help you.
Macros and what this person is going to teach me.
Right.
I tried to DIY. Do it myself.
Yeah.
I tried to watch a couple of videos. You try.
Right.
And now
And
it's
then
to
you
the
hire
point
an
where, you know what? I need somebody to kick my ass.
And it's not all right. And it's not always people, I think, again, when networking and scaling and all of that stuff, it all comes together. A referral doesn't mean you're going to get the business. I really try to stress that to people. It means I thought of you. I thought the two of you could make a connection. Maybe I missed the mark. And that happened. But a referral is really someone thinking of you and your business and wanting someone else to do business with you.
That is so key. And I think there's so much power in that too. Like being top of mind for whatever the thing, production, videography, coaching, personal training. You want that. And it goes back to your brand.
Brand of advancing commerce, the brand of protecting business and enhancing the community.
Yeah. So the 3 pillars of my work and this podcast too, as part of my work, are redefining success on our own terms, not just the traditional title and whatever, living authentically. In other words, I think sometimes in our younger years and maybe sometimes in our now years, we think that we have to project this image or this identity that makes us fit in, be more respected, whatever, right? Instead of just being ourselves. And
the
that
culture
can be
of Facebook.
yes, and that can be exhausting. And then the other thing I talk about a lot is courageous leadership. And not necessarily only leadership as it relates to communities and your companies, but yourself. Because it starts here first, right? And your family and who you are and what you do and how you lead your life. And so those 3 things, we can spend days and days and months and decades talking about those. But when it comes to courageous leadership, tell me about some of the opportunities that you guys have for, again, not necessarily I'm going to lead an organization and I need this and that, but leading in the community, leading yourself, like owning your power. I talk about that a lot.
For lack of a better example, I am like a dog with a bone when I believe in something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if my CEO, who is amazing and led the organization for forever and a day.
Shout out the CEO.
Oh, shout out Troy. Okay, I'll shout out Troy McClellan. Yes. I always say I love him. And I mean it in the most sincere possible way. Because he looks at things like 5 years ahead and in this macro picture and how is this going to affect that and how is this going to affect this and this is tied to that. And I'm like, oh my God. I look, especially when I want to do something straight ahead. And so he challenges me all the time, which I love. And I wanted to do a new event. It's not easy though to get him necessarily to change his mind. It's not easy to get me to change my mind. And he just makes me think in a better way.
Yes.
I will say that. And so we came to an agreement. So I will look at that as like a win, as a challenge.
I love
it was
that.
a win for the community. And he ended up loving what we did. So I was like, of course it was all your idea. But so you have to really be willing to, when you talk about what's like, do something you're afraid of. I'm always afraid with him that I'm not going to have the answer maybe, or I'm not going to be as prepared. So it makes me prepare 10 times more. If it's something that you believe in and it's something a little bit different, that's okay. But you should also have somebody who challenges you on the other side. And you should also have somebody who makes you be 3 times as prepared.
I have two friends. One is my cheerleader. I could literally vomit and she'd be
Beautiful.
like, oh, it's okay. We all do that. And come on, let's clean it up. And then there's one that would be like, wow. Let's talk about what led to this. We do need to surround ourselves with people that challenge us to take us out of our own status quo. I read this factoid and I shared it, and it's still stunning me because I know it's true. That by age 35, I think 95% of us, our habits are so ingrained. That's it. We set it and forget it. That's why it's so hard. Like, I know what I'm supposed to do in the gym. I know. I've had trainers before. Habitually, I like to lay down and read a book.
Take a nap.
But
Go in the tanning bed.
if we translate that to the changes, and to use some of your words, like this person at the chamber wanted to scale and wants to do big things, right? If we are bringing in habits that have served us, quote unquote, well for decades, and our primitive brain has no desire to shake the boat because that means danger, why then would we want to learn new habits that are going to take us to that next level? So that's where you need that expertise to come in and cut through the noise and shake you up out of your, somebody said what?
Absolutely.
It sounds like what Troy did.
It's what he does all the time.
I love it.
Was really a great talent
Yes.
for people to have, because I think sometimes a misconception could be, oh, he's stuck in his ways. And he's really not. He just wants you to present it to him in a way.
And he
that
wants
he's-
to challenge it and find holes in it because that makes the product smarter.
think about it.
Yeah.
And you need to have that balance personally and professionally. But if you want to succeed, I think professionally, you need someone who's butting up against you a little bit.
Let's talk about, because Boca, West Palm Beach, Boynton, all of our cities have a signature vibe.
1,000%.
And
Delray.
yes, Deerfield, like you, Fort Lauderdale, you wherever you go,
Right.
every city has its own cultural norm
Personality.
vibe.
Right.
For business owners that are navigating some of these ecosystems, what do you think is something that makes them stronger in terms of a core value or a characteristic that, regardless of what hub you're in, or what do you see as something that spans the differences and keeps them grounded?
And they all have their own chamber too, which is an interesting
Sure.
thing that we could always talk about for days. I think the thing that keeps people grounded is, at the end of the day, they want to grow their business.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, sometimes the old-fashioned things ring true. You could have the coolest website, the greatest app, the greatest whatever, but if you are mean to somebody, or if they don't like you, they're never going to do business with you. So I think that is something that carries through, that no trust. It can be as corny. You can think that's corny, but it's incredibly true. Some of those true core values are really what spans the personality of each town or city.
Yeah. People still want good manners.
People still want you to call them back.
Yes.
People still want you to answer your phone. It doesn't matter. Like, certain cities have a more relaxed vibe, maybe because they're closer to the beach. Certain places have a more buttoned up vibe because they're more business. And that's great, but it's still that core value.
I really love that. One of the things that is most powerful for executives is knowing their core values for themselves, because I could put 100 core values in front, 100 people, and we're all going to circle maybe one similar one, love or family or whatever.
Family first, yeah.
But for the most part, there's all kinds of things. And I think too that there are basic standards of expectations that people have for being kind. Like, you can't, there's just one way to be kind. You just be kind. Have empathy and just be, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I will say that something like respect, I hear a lot of people circle the value of respect. I want to be respected in the community. That's a very wide field.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What does that mean? So I think as leaders, before we go presenting ourselves and our expectations and being disappointed or whatever, right? It's important for us to know ourselves and to understand which of our needs can be fairly met by employees or the chamber or anywhere that you're interacting with, but also what are internal things that we have to work on.
I'm a work in progress.
We're all a work in progress.
I'm learning
I always
every
say
day.
I always say if you meet a coach who doesn't have a coach, run.
A therapist with a therapist.
This is true. So I want to talk to you a little bit more personal.
Okay.
Tell me about Oliver. Engaging.
The most fun and engaging thing in my life, obviously, is my son. But that we can talk about the dogs too. So, what do you want to know about the laziest person that you ever want to meet?
What does lazy mean?
Lazy means I try not to have appointments on the weekends, and what I mean by appointments is a nail appointment or a hair appointment. These are things we do as women. And I try to do those when I can at night after, because I don't want it to cut into my weekend. I literally do not want to be scheduled for anything on my weekend, which because my days are so scheduled and my time is so tight, which I love, but I need to decompress.
Absolutely.
So my weekends are about what I want to do and when I want to do them. And if I want to get out of my pajamas or not. They usually involve Walmart for sure.
At Walmart when we go.
Oh, anything. Not that I've ever done this because I couldn't change my own car battery, but I'm still marveled by the fact that you can get a car battery, you can get an outfit and fruit.
All in the same place.
And
photos and wedding cakes.
You can, absolutely. Yes. So that always, I find that I still find that amazing in the modern age that we live in, and do your landscaping all in one store. I'm there for something. Netflix.
I just watched Adolescence.
Yeah, was it good?
Oh, it was.
Oh,
okay. It was disturbing. I would say the production was really good, and the lesson behind it for parents and kids and social media, obviously. But yeah, I would pass on it if you want a nice, relaxing weekend. What are you eyeballing this weekend?
I have a 17-year-old, so whatever's on his mind, I want to make sure if he needs something or we spend quality time together. Sometimes we're in the same house, but not in the same room, and we don't speak, but just that we're all there together. That's part of what I consider quality time, because anybody who has a 17-year-old knows that they're not, unless it's a girl maybe, they're not opening up to you.
No, girls don't open up either. That is a myth. My kids are 18 and 14, so I'm right there in the thick of it with you. Guys, this was so emphatic.
That is a definitive, absolute.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. That actually, yeah. I thought it was scary the first time that a friend that I didn't know, because obviously he's in high school, so I don't make play dates for my son anymore. I thought it was scary the first time a friend picked him up. I was like, wait, where do you want me to drop you off? When do you want to go? I'll take you. And it was like, no, picking me up. And I'm like, who? They're doing what? And I sent my husband out front with one of the dogs because that was our cover. And I said, I at least want to know what kind of car this kid is driving.
Yeah, Life 360 is. You know, now they're tracking me.
Oh, gosh.
Because I'm out and about a lot more. And my daughter's, oh, yeah, I saw you, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know she knew how to use it. I said, wait, are you tracking me? Because now she has a boyfriend. I was like, are you tracking me for when I'm on my way home?
I get the when are you coming home? Because obviously something at home needs to be done that only I can do.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, the college is a dirty word. It's practically a 4-letter word, even though it's not.
Jen, what are you looking forward to in your life for the next, I would say, 10 years?
I think that I definitely have gone through and working on just trying to move forward.
Yeah.
People think that's so simple, but it's not. Trying to embrace things in a different way, trying to work on happiness and gratitude every day. Yeah. I so believe in that you can't just be happy. You have to actually work at it. And just like enjoying the moment. That's the hardest thing, I think, for me. I'm always thinking about the load of laundry I have to do or my next appointment or whatever. And so really working on being in the moment because it goes so quickly.
So we're already, if we sneeze properly, it's going to be April.
And then all of a sudden the kids are on spring break, and then all of a sudden it's summer, and then it's another year of school, and then it's the holidays again. It is Groundhog Day.
My God, you just made, I'm like sweating.
I know. I know, but and they're older, and I'm convinced that I didn't get any older, even though my number says differently. But just enjoying it, really. And enjoying it, that's the other thing. What does enjoying it mean? Enjoying it doesn't mean that it can't be frustrating. Like, it's all frustrating, but just being okay with that.
It's like people think conflict is bad.
Right.
I think if you are making a decision or trying new things and you have an inner dissonance about it or some kind of inner conflict, that's a good thing for you to explore because it's just strengthening you for the next thing, right?
Yeah, and it's always...
And find a sounding board. Like,
my mom always had this saying. She always used to say, I try to make the holidays, or I try to do things like Norman Rockwell, like a Norman Rockwell painting. And my stuff ends up like Salvador Dali on acid. And I'm in definitely the Salvador Dali on acid thing, trying to make it perfect, but that's okay. But I also need to embrace that because that's what our perfect is. It's a big mess most of the time.
And I will say too that when you talk about wanting to do things or what has changed in my story, my whole near death and doing things more intentionally. Something that I find amusing and a little bit frustrating, but mostly I'm grateful for it, is when I write things out, they tend to happen
100%.
and never in the way that I thought. So a perfect example, 2 years ago, I was like, in my younger days, I was such a dancer. Like I had rhythm. Oh my God. Now, oh my God. It's like a stiff
dance. Do you do the mom dance?
Probably I do. But I've gotten I'm almost overanalyzing the moves instead of just going with the rhythm. And so for 2 years, I've been dragging this, I need to go to salsa dancing. I need to go back to, I love salsa dancing. And Kevin and I even took classes and I was like, I didn't like the instructor. It just wasn't a vibe. And then we opened this new gym in Boca and there was a huge delay in opening. Anyway, long and short of it is, there are 2 Zumba instructors there that blow my mind.
Oh, wow.
I come out of there, girl, I'm like, okay, I'm going to open 17 more businesses and move to Tahiti, jazzed up, sweaty, excited, adrenaline, all the dopamine hits. And now I'm getting my salsa fix. And what I love about the class is we're all varying degrees of like awkward.
Yes.
So there's no pressure, but I'm still competitive because I was like, no, grandma is not going to beat me at that move. You know what I mean? So I'm saying like, I want to encourage everyone listening. Like when we talk about what's your 10-year strategy, we have that for our businesses. Think about, hey, like one of the things I'm thinking about is my daughter, she's 18, she picked UCF. So we're getting ready. We paid for room and board and all of the like things coming up with that in the next couple of weeks.
We've been there.
But now I'm saying to her, I want a date. And she said, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, just we plan dates. We pick a time. We put it on the calendar. We get dressed up. We take turns. Of course, I'm probably paying for most of it. But
of course.
But she was like so flabbergasted by that. And it just came to me as we were doing it. And I was like, we're just going to have date nights. I don't care what day it is, what we're going to do, pick a concert. But I think being intentional about like even your son, you know what's on the horizon. How do you start putting in place those little building blocks?
We've actually done it.
Tell me.
So it's so funny. A couple of years ago, and actually in a couple of weeks, it will be several years ago. It won't be a couple anymore. One of my personal joys in life, one of my favorite things is I'm a graduate of Kansas University and I love my Jayhawks. I love the basketball team. Yeah. It just is and college was a very happy place for me. Sure. But watching the basketball team, like I schedule my life around college basketball games.
I would not have guessed that.
Watching that and I get my gear on. I practically do everything but paint my face. So when I turned 50 and I hadn't been back to Lawrence, Kansas in quite a long time, 30 plus years. My son was 15, 16 at the time. I said, I want to take him for the weekend and I want to take him to a basketball game. And I just want to show him the place that meant so much to me
for sure
in my formative years and share. He could watch it on TV with me, but you don't get the full effect. And so we went away for the weekend. That was a bucket list trip. Some people want to scuba dive in the Great Barrier and that's great. This was my bucket list thing. And we've since done a couple of little jaunts around
I love that. You're inspiring me to go jaunt now.
We went to UCF for a game. So now we've been in Lawrence and we went to UCF for a game and we've been in Orlando. My husband's great, but I'm like, no, this is my thing with my child. So I try when those things come up, it's just the two of us.
I love that.
And so it's the one thing I was ahead of the game on. And I'm like, we need to take another trip and I'll take him to Chicago to see my parents. Again, it's seeing my parents, but it's just us. And I've said to him, he's my travel buddy.
I love it. The thing that made me healthy over the last couple of years was I did this Tony Robbins thing and they were talking about envisioning your best life. The one core value I had, I wanted it to be more than just be healthy. That wasn't enough. I wanted vitality. Like that particular word makes me like excited because it means getting up in the morning with enthusiasm and gratitude. Like it's a whole vibe. And to have vibrancy and to have vitality, I had to do many things differently instead of just eating healthy or walking or whatever. But to your point about the vision that gets me up every morning and sticking to my habits and cut out coffee and still being sad about it, but not going back to it.
Oh, no, I couldn't do that.
I want to be, and people laugh at me when I say this, I want to be like a sexy grandma. And I want to be able to take them on cruises and long flights and tour the world. But I want to take them and show them the world, see it again through their eyes, but also be fit and happy and vital.
Because otherwise you can't enjoy it.
Correct. So I think if we have these goals, find an aspiration that's bigger than,
do the hard thing first. Too.
Sure.
Do the hard thing first thing in the morning. Do the thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning because the dread sets in. So it's like that. Yeah. If you're going to exercise, do it first thing in the morning. At least for me, that's the thing I dread.
100. So thank you so much for sharing with us. This was amazing. Yeah. What do you say to the person that's listening to this, maybe a little bit introverted, maybe having some success with their business and their services that they provide, and still feeling, I don't know if, not even the chamber, but I don't know if going out and networking or connecting is the right thing for me to do.
It's the wrong thing if you're not doing it. If you're not doing it, you're not doing yourself or your business a service.
Yeah.
You're doing them truly a disservice. And the chamber provides, I really want to get back to that, the structure.
Sure.
Everybody needs a structure. I don't care if people say, oh, I'm a casual person, but I keep going back to, there's a reason why it's called networking, and work requires structure.
Yeah.
Whether you work at
and
home,
discipline,
in an office, whether, I don't care how your business is structured, but even if you work at home, your business is structured.
And a container with people that are amazing. Okay, 95%.
I say to people this, do you want to stand out on the street corner with a sign, or do you want to be plopped into a room where you could be a sign spinner, but it's not for everybody. Yeah. Or do you want to be plopped into a room with other business people who have the same interests that you do?
Yeah. A
curated group of people, really.
Yeah. People find more information on the chamber.
They can go to our website.
Yeah.
They can call us. 561-395-4433 is our general number. Boca and Boynton, same chamber.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance to that, but don't be worried if you live in Boynton and you go to the Boynton page and it leads you to Boca, you're in.
So today, I really wanted to take this opportunity to not only showcase the chamber, but provide a resource for a lot of people that I know are navigating spaces that feel big and sometimes you feel small. And I think that having a place to go to where they've honestly probably seen it all and different levels of scaling up and understanding people that maybe have walked a similar path to you is so powerful, because you will get there quicker with a GPS system than wandering around in the dark.
I love that.
You guys are just the navigator before it was cool. And so I think for me personally, it has been a game changer for me, but also learning from how others have done it has been the most valuable thing. And I think there's never been a time I've reached out to someone and just said, hey, would love to have a coffee chat or even a virtual coffee. The second thing that I loved from our conversation was that growth mindset. I really loved what you said about putting it out there. And I especially love that you said, because you knew it was for a leader that you trusted, you did 10 times the work to make sure that this idea and this thing that you were birthing got wings.
It's much harder actually to wing it than it is to be prepared.
Yeah. And the third thing I want to say is, and I always say this to coaching clients, is you can't build castles on top of quicksand. And if your foundation and your network and your community doesn't know you or what you do or who you are or what you stand for, then posting on social media really is not going to do you any good.
It's no different than getting a flyer in the mail.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I hadn't thought of that. I never even opened the things.
And when you become the resource and the friend that you would call, be the resource that you want for yourself, be that resource to other people.
I love that.
And that's what we turn people into.
Yes, I love it. So if you love this episode, please subscribe and share it. Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and doing this with me.
Thank you.
And it's time to go beyond. Catch you next week. I'm Stacey Luces. Thanks.